Hello, my name is RShipwash, and I have been tasked with implementing a mechanic designed by one of my peers into this tile-based game project, Tournamental. The mechanic I've introduced is the confusion mechanic originally designed by Mark Ravali. So let's dive in. All right, now that we are actually in the level, let's go ahead and discuss what y'all are seeing now. I have implemented the confusion mechanic, as you can see, which is the spinning spiral with the purple background underneath it. This indicates that it is a different tile other than the floor. If we step on the tile, it updates the player model to have a new head where it shows that the player is confused. It also updates the floor tile to show that it was cracked and that you have successfully activated the mechanic. Once you enter the tile of the confusion, it also updates the compass down at the bottom left-hand corner where it shows the new direction that the player is able to move to. This will give the player the feedback to understand which way they need to move with their key bindings now. Let's go to the next area. I implemented the crushing block with it. This adds a sense of urgency with it, especially with the new mechanic for confusion. It makes it a little bit more difficult to move throughout the level. Let's continue through. Okay. Now that we stepped on a new confusion tile, it resets the player back to its standard controls, which updates the new HUD to the standard controls and allows us to move in the normal fashion. Let's traverse the level and play with it a little bit more. As you can see, the crushing block destroys the player or the interactable if it gets underneath it, which allows the player to pass through this area. Now that this is where it gets tricky with the movement, I have added the confusion right on the other side of this block so that you have to pass under the block and then move onto the tile, at which I have got crushed by the block and it shows that I have died. So we will run through this real quick to see if we can make sure that we can get all the way to the end. Crushes the block, updates the tile to visible and entering. Let's keep going. Oh, I have died again. As you can see, you can continue around. It updates automatically throughout the whole level. Once you reach the end, you'll come back here. Now let's dive into the flow of the mechanic and how it was created. Now that we have demonstrated how the new mechanic affects the gameplay and how one another works together, let's dive in to see how I created this. First thing I did was I went to the tiles category in the file content drawer. I created a child blueprint of the tile blueprint. Once I created that, I renamed it to Tile Confusion name convention so that I know exactly which tile I will be working with and that I can update within the details panel of the tiles. Let's open up the tile here. First off, I created a plane for it, which allows me to set the background color to what I needed it to be. Secondly, I made a separate plane that allows me to have the spiral. This way I can call each plane separately. The spiral is actually a piece of the art, which it is a transparent image that allows you to create a material out of it. I've created a material out of that, which allows me to edit it and make the background transparent. I created the texture sample of the PNG, which I gave the base color and the opaquency of the background. I saved that. Let's go back to the tile. with the background is actually just a color convention made from the material of let's see, go up here. I'll show you right up here, of the no lit text, which is the material that is used for a majority of the other tiles. I created the actor for it, a child for it, which allowed me to change the color of it to the actual background that I needed. Then from there, I went ahead and added those to the static meshes on the right side. I added those. From there, I went to the event graph, which allows me to be able to call upon certain functions. I call the event on entered, which gives me the functionalities of that. After that, I called the switch on tile object type, which allows the tile to dictate what is entering the tile. Is it the player or interactable? Because the only thing I want for this to affect is the player and not the interactable itself. After that, it calls upon a branch, which is a variable that is created, and it recognizes if the tile is active or if it is not active. Basically, if there is a confusion on there. Then it goes down to another branch, which allows the tile to check to see if there is a confusion state on the player. We'll get into where we pull the confused state in just a second. We'll continue the functionality of the tile. These are functions that have been compressed into smaller nodes. This way it gives it a little bit cleaner look. This area gives it allows the code to see if the player is confused or not confused. We'll go ahead and open these up right here. If the player is not confused, it goes ahead and sets them to confused. It casts to an interface that we created, which I'll show you in just a second, and then it swaps it, which is the interface a variable. And then it sets the tile to inactive, which makes it where it will not set the player to confused if it steps on it again. And which is the same thing for the unconfused player. So it will set it to where if the player is confused, it'll remove the confusion state and then set it back. From there, it'll set the material to the crack material that I created, which is right here. This is from a piece of art that I gathered that I created a material out of, and it allows the player to call on this crack to an update. And at that point, that it'll update to the crack. To get the spiral to showcase that it is spinning in the gameplay, I created an event tick that added a local rotation to the target of plane 1, which is the plane 1 is the spiral. And once and I set it to a variable of spin. This allows us to change the speed of it at any point we want. And at that point, once the player steps on the tile, this area right here, right after the set material, it removes the spiral from the, it sets it to invisible so it doesn't destroy the actor and create code errors. And so from there, we'll go into how the player is confused. So we'll first start with the interface that we created right here for iScrew. We'll open that up. Once you open it up, we created a swap variable. It is a Boolean that is it swap or not swap. This allows us to pull in multiple areas. We'll go ahead and close that out since we're not using that no more. We'll go ahead and go to the player pawn. This shows us where the event is called. So the event swap is from the interface. After we set it in our implemented interfaces over here, we're able to call that event. It sets it so that if the player is confused, it'll change the color of the head. This allows us to change either way if it is confused or if it's not, and it changes the feedback to the player to show if it's confused or not. So that is how you're able to see that. Once the player is confused, we created a variable in here that is confused, and we attached it to a branch on the inputs. So if the player is confused, it automatically sets it to where it goes opposite direction than what the intended button does. And then once it is stated that it's unconfused, it'll go back, it'll revert back based on the branch booleans. The way that we get the head over here is we call from the event begin on play a variable. This way we can set, we call the base head of the player, we get the material, and we're able to set the player's head, the color of his head down here. So that's how we get these functions right here. Let's open up the function so you can see what's going on. So the confused head, we're able to change the confused head to whatever material we would want, and then we call upon the head. For the normal head part, so if the player is not confused, it'll go false and it'll go into the normal head, which this will call this function right here, which is the head, and then it goes to base head, and this way we can reset it back to this normal state. So then I also updated it so that the interface is updated as well to show the correct movement indicators on the bottom left-hand corner through the compass. This allows us to, if the player steps on it and they are confused, it updates the widget to show the compass to be the correct directional indicators. So you go through, get all the widgets, which you get the class of all the widgets. You remove the parent because I chose the HUD widget right here. Then I cast and make a new one to the viewport. If the player is false and is not confused, then it will pull the player HUD and it will create the new HUD for that so that it reverts back to the normal. Okay, let's take a look, make sure we got everything that we needed out of here. Okay, this shows you the interfaces that I duplicated here. I duplicated the player HUD and the player HUD and the compass. This allowed me to modify those and call different ones. So when I open up the widget here, I was able to call the compass confused here, which allows me to pull it here. So I can say player HUD confused, which will indicate these backwards. The main challenge that I faced was creating the widget update for the HUD. This was, I have worked quite a bit on this, trying to figure out how I can call the HUD to this to the player pawn so that it updates when the player is moving onto the tile. And once the player enters the tile, it would update the HUD to the correct confusion state. That was one of them. Another one was trying to get the tile to display a rotation of the spiral. This was, had to work on this quite a bit. It took a little bit of working and tinkering, but I was able to get that done. I also wanted to update Mark Ravali's code here, where instead of updating the tile variable manually to make it a confused tile or not confused tile, this automatically recognizes if the player is confused or not confused through the player pawn blueprint, which was good. I also added comments to all of the coding that I have added. This way, if another individual needed to use this, they would be able to understand the coding for this. As you can see, this one is purple. This shows that what I added to this, the purple one down there, the purple one up here, and I also added this down here. This just indicates what I've updated and what is just standard in the actual system itself. But other than that, I think that is it. Thank you for watching. Y'all have a good one.